My dear friends, have you ever been in a moment where life froze, where no option looked right, and you didn't even know how to pray? Maybe you're there now, confused, anxious, spiritually numb. Let me tell you something. Uncertainty is not the enemy. It's the doorway to divine direction. If you feel lost or paralyzed, don't scroll past. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you where to start when you have no idea what to do next, and how that step could unlock everything God has been preparing for you. Asterisk 6 Keynote Points Outline of Main Message 1. Pause. The panic God speaks best in stillness before looking for answers. Learn to get quiet. Psalm 46. 10 Be still and know that I am God. You can't hear God's whisper over the noise of your worry. 2. Go back to what God already said when you don't know what to do next. Revisit the last thing God clearly told you. Faith is often about obedience, not fresh instruction. Don't chase the new word. Walk out the old one. 3. Surrender the outcome. We often feel stuck because we're trying to control the outcome. Surrender opens the door for God's direction. Proverbs 3:5-6 Lean not on your own understanding. 4. Pray, even when it feels pointless. Prayer is not about feelings, it's about connection. God does his best work in silent seasons. Prayer changes the atmosphere around your decisions. 5. Seek godly counsel. You're not supposed to figure it out alone. Wisdom comes through community. Proverbs 11:14 Where there is no guidance, a people falls. God often speaks through people you trust. 6. Take the next right step, not the perfect one. God leads by steps, not leaps. You don't need to see the whole path. Just trust the next right thing. Faith isn't about certainty, it's about movement. Call to stay and watch the whole message. Asterisk. If you're tired of spinning your wheels and praying for clarity with no breakthrough, this message is for you. I'll walk you through practical, biblical steps that will give you peace for today and direction for tomorrow. Don't just wish for change. Start here right now. Asterisk, would you like a full written version of the speech or slides based on this outline? You said, expend give me 700 keyword. ChatGPT said, here's an expanded version of your speech titled When You Don't Know What to Do, Start Here. With approximately 700 plus words, it includes the engaging introduction, expanded points, and a strong call to action at the end to keep your audience watching or listening until the end. When you don't know what to do, start here. Fire introduction, the hook, most engaging part. Have you ever hit a wall in life? You're trying to move forward, you're praying, you're listening, but nothing is clear. You feel stuck, you're overwhelmed with choices, or worse, there are no options in sight. You've got questions but no answers. You've got emotions but no peace, and maybe right now you're smiling on the outside but screaming on the inside. Listen to me, just because you don't know what to do doesn't mean God has left you. In fact, this might be the exact place where he wants to meet you. This confusion you're feeling, it could be the beginning of a major breakthrough. So if you're stuck, anxious, or spiritually frozen, don't give up. Start here. This message is for you. Stay with me, because by the end of this message, you're going to walk away with real clarity, peace, and power. Not because I'm speaking, but because God is. Keynote 1. Pause the panic. God speaks best in stillness. Before you act, before you decide, before you run to people, pause. Panic is a liar. It makes you think there's no time to wait, but God's timing is never in a rush. Psalm 46:10 says, Be still and know that I am God. When you're too busy striving, you stop listening, and most of the time, what you need isn't a new answer, it's the peace that allows you to hear the one God already gave you. Don't move in panic, move in peace. Keynote 2. Go back to what God already said sometimes. The problem isn't that God hasn't spoken. It's that we've forgotten what he already said. What was the last thing God clearly told you to do? Are you doing it? God often gives next steps only when we walk in current obedience. Don't keep asking for a new word if you've ignored the last one. Faith isn't just about hearing, it's about obeying. Keynote 3. Surrender the outcome. We get stuck because we want to know the ending before we take the first step, but faith doesn't work like that. Proverbs 3:5-6 tells us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. You may not understand why you're here, but God does, and until you surrender the outcome, you won't have peace in the process. Let go of control. Give God the outcome. He can do more with your surrender than you can with your strategy. Keynote 4. Pray. Even when it feels pointless, there will be days when prayer feels like talking to a wall. You'll ask and hear nothing, cry and feel nothing, but let me remind you, God is never inactive. He's just often invisible. Keep praying. Prayer is not a performance, it's a lifeline. It's where your faith gets refueled. You're not praying to get God to act. You're praying so your heart aligns with His. Even when you don't feel it, prayer is working. Keynote 5. Seek godly counsel. You're not meant to figure it out alone. You're not weak because you need help. You're wise. Proverbs 11:14 says, "Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety." God places people in your life to sharpen your vision and speak clarity over your confusion. Don't isolate. Invite wisdom in. Find faith. Build people who will speak truth, not just comfort, to your situation. Keynote 6. Take the next right step, not the perfect one. Stop waiting for the whole staircase. Faith is about moving forward, even when the path is unclear. God leads step by step, not leap by leap. The next right thing doesn't have to be big, it just has to be obedient. Don't wait for perfection, move with purpose. Closing call to action, the reason to stay, friend. Maybe you started watching this unsure, tired, and full of questions, but I believe God is stirring something in you right now. You don't have to figure it all out today. You just have to start here. Start by pausing. Start by praying. Start by remembering what God already said. Start by surrendering. Start by reaching out for counsel. And start by taking the next small step. Don't let confusion stop your calling. When you don't know what to do, God does, and if you'll give Him your trust, He'll give you direction. When you don't know what to do, the first and most powerful thing you can do is pause. That's right. Pause the panic. Silence the noise. Stop scrambling for answers, because panic never produces peace, and God does not operate in chaos. We live in a world that celebrates hustle, urgency, and non-stop movement. Culture tells you, don't just stand there, do something. But the kingdom of God often works the opposite way. In fact, sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is be still. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." There's a connection between stillness and spiritual awareness. When we stop reacting in fear, we create space. Faith, when we quiet our environment and our emotions, we begin to hear God's voice more clearly. Let me ask you a question. How can you expect to hear God's whisper if you're drowning in your own noise? Most of us don't have a clarity problem. We have a clutter problem. Our minds are overloaded. Our hearts are overwhelmed. We're tuned into social media, people's opinions, our own insecurities. Everything but God. You can't follow God's direction if you're following 5 other voices at the same time. God's voice often comes in a whisper, not a shout. Think of Elijah in 1 Kings 19:11-12. Elijah was looking for God in the wind, the earthquake, and the fire, but God wasn't in any of those. He came in a gentle whisper, a still, small voice. Why? Because God doesn't compete for your attention. He waits for your focus. When you're panicked, you're rushed, reactive, and easily distracted. But when you're still, you're present, attentive, and sensitive to the Spirit. So, what does pausing the panic look like practically? It means taking 10 minutes to turn off your phone and sit in silence. It means opening your Bible even when you don't feel like reading. It means journaling your thoughts to God instead of venting to social media. It means saying, God, I'm listening. Speak. Stillness is not inactivity. It's intentional trust. It's saying, God, I may not know what to do next, but I trust you do. And I won't move without your presence. Sometimes the breakthrough you're desperate for is waiting on the other side of stillness. The answer you're looking for isn't in another opinion or frantic decision. It's in the quiet place with God. Don't let your anxiety drive you into action that isn't aligned with God's will. Let your stillness be the soil where His guidance can grow. So before you move, pause. Before you decide, be still. Before you take control, surrender. Because when you pause the panic, you make room for the peace of God to lead you. One of the biggest mistakes we make when we're confused is thinking we need something brand new from God. Some fresh revelation, some dramatic sign, or a perfectly clear open door. But in reality, the next step you need may already be something God has spoken to you in the past. You don't always need a new word. You may just need remember the last one. Let's be honest. We often say, God, show me what to do. But the truth is, many of us are sitting on unapplied instruction. We've heard sermons, we've read scripture. God has already nudged our hearts. He's already whispered that direction, prompted that conviction, stirred that obedience, but we've delayed, we've ignored, or we've doubted. Why would God give you step 2 if you haven't trusted Him with step 1? That's why when you're stuck or unclear, one of the most powerful things you can do is go back and ask, what was the last thing God clearly told me to do? Did He tell you to forgive someone, but you're still holding the grudge? Did He nudge you to step out in faith, but fear kept you frozen? Did He convict you to change something in your habits, but you pushed it aside because it was uncomfortable? Luke 16:10 says, whoever is faithful with little will be entrusted with much. Sometimes the little is that last small instruction you received. It may not have looked significant at the time, but obedience is the key that unlocks clarity. God honors obedience. It's not just about hearing His voice, it's about responding to it. Jesus said in John 14:15, if you love me, keep my commandments. Love for God isn't just a feeling, it's an action, and that action is obedience. That's how trust grows. That's how faith is built. Let me also remind you, God never contradicts Himself. He doesn't change His mind based on your emotions. If He spoke something into your heart last month, last year, or even 10 years ago, His word still stands. It might be delayed, but it's not dead. It might feel irrelevant now, but it's still His instruction, and the fulfillment might still be waiting, but it's connected to your faithfulness. Don't run around chasing confirmation from 10 different people when God has already confirmed something deep in your spirit. You don't need a new direction. You need old obedience, and here's the good news. God is not mad at you for forgetting. He's not angry that you got distracted. He's just waiting for you to return to what He already said, because that's where the blessing is. Sometimes breakthrough doesn't require a brand new step. Sometimes it requires you to go back and finish the one you skipped. So if you don't know what to do next, start by asking, what's still unfinished from what God already asked of me? Because when you honor what He's already spoken, He'll trust you with what's next. One of the greatest sources of stress, anxiety, and confusion is this. We don't just want to know what to do. We want to control how it all turns out. That's the real issue, isn't it? We don't just want guidance. We want guarantees. We don't just want direction. We want assurance that everything will go our way. But here's the truth that every believer has to wrestle with. Faith does not mean having all the answers. Faith means trusting God even when you don't. Let me ask you, Are you holding onto a plan and expectation or a dream so tightly that it's become your idol? Are you trying to force an outcome instead of trusting God's process? Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path." Notice that lean not on your own understanding. That means stop trying to figure everything out before you obey. Stop trying to predict every possible outcome before you take a step of faith. God doesn't call you to understand. He calls you to trust. Sometimes we feel stuck because we're unwilling to move forward until the entire path is visible. But God leads us step by step, not with full blueprints, but with divine breadcrumbs. He gives us just enough light for the next step. Why? Because he wants us to walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7, and here's the freeing truth. You are not responsible for the results. You are only responsible for your obedience. When you surrender the outcome, you're saying, "God, even if it doesn't look the way I hoped, I still trust you. Even if the door I want doesn't open, I know you'll open the right one. Even if the timeline doesn't match my expectations, I know your timing is perfect." Surrender is not weakness, it's worship. It's saying, "God, your plan, my plan." It's trusting that the same God who called you is faithful to carry it through. Abraham had surrender Isaac, the very thing he waited his whole life for. Jesus surrendered his will in the Garden of Gethsemane when he said, "Not my will, but yours be done." And if Jesus trusted the Father enough to surrender everything, even unto death, then surely we can trust him with our uncertainties. So, let me ask you again, what outcome are you trying to control? What future are you clinging to so tightly that you're missing God's peace in the present? Whatever it is, lay it down. Lay down your need to know everything. Lay down your timeline. Lay down your fear of what if. Lay down your desire for control, because when you give up control, God gives you clarity. When you release the outcome, you receive peace. And when you stop striving, you start receiving. So if you don't know what to do right now, here's your next move: surrender. Say it with your mouth, mean it with your heart. God, I surrender the outcome. I trust you more than I trust myself. And I promise, when you let go of your grip, you'll begin to feel God's hand leading you again. Let's be real for a moment. There are times in life when prayer doesn't feel powerful. It feels pointless. You cry out to God and hear nothing. You ask for direction and feel more lost. You plead for peace but wake up with the same storm in your mind. You think, why pray if nothing's changing? But here's what you need to understand. Prayer isn't about performance, it's about presence. Prayer isn't a magic formula to get God to act. Prayer is about staying connected to the one who already knows what's best. The enemy's goal is to convince you that prayer is useless, so you'll stop doing the very thing that gives you strength, because if he can't destroy you, he'll try to distract or discourage you. But let me encourage you, God hears every word, God sees every tear, God moves through every prayer, even the ones you whisper through your tears. 1 Thessalonians 5:17 says, "Pray without ceasing." It doesn't say, "Pray when you feel it." It says, "Pray, period." Why? Because prayer is how you invite God into your situation. Receive peace beyond understanding. Recenter your heart on his promises, not your problems. Remind your spirit that you're not alone. You might not feel anything when you pray, but prayer isn't about feelings. You're not praying to feel better. You're praying to stay anchored in truth when your emotions try to lie to you. Let's look at Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, Matthew 26:36-46. He was overwhelmed with sorrow. He didn't feel strong. He was struggling, but what did he do? He prayed, not once, but 3 times, and his prayer wasn't calm and composed. It was raw, real, and full of emotion. Jesus shows us that real prayer isn't pretty, it's honest. It's not about perfect words. It's about an open heart, and here's the beautiful part. Even when you don't know what to pray, the Holy Spirit prays for you. Romans 8:26 says, "The Spirit helps us in our weakness." When we do not know what we ought to pray for, the Spirit Himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. So if you feel like you're out of words, God still hears you. If all you can say is, "God, help me," He listens. If all you can do is sit in silence, He's right there beside you. Prayer isn't always about changing your situation. It's about changing you in the middle of it. Prayer doesn't always bring immediate answers, but it always brings eternal alignment with God's will. Let me make this personal. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in your life will not begin with a big opportunity. They'll begin with a quiet moment of prayer, in the car, on your knees, in tears, in silence, in worship. So even when it feels like nothing is happening, keep praying, even when it's dry, even when it's hard, even when your heart feels numb, because prayer is not the backup plan, the battle plan. It's the place where confusion turns into clarity, fear turns into faith, and weakness turns into strength. So don't let your silence become distance. If you don't know what to do, pray anyway. When you're overwhelmed, unsure, and emotionally exhausted, the idea of figuring everything out at once feels impossible. You may be asking, what's my purpose? What's the right decision? How do I fix this whole situation? But here's a simple truth that can reset your heart. God doesn't expect you to figure everything out. He's just asking you to take the next step of obedience, not the final step, not the glamorous step, just the next right thing. You don't have to solve your whole life this week. You just need to be faithful today. Proverbs 16:9 says, "We can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps." Not your leaps, not your grand vision, your steps. God leads us step by step, moment by moment. You may not be able to see a mile ahead, but if you can take the next right step, He will meet you in that obedience. Sometimes the next right thing looks small. Saying yes to a counseling session, sending the apology God's been nudging you to write, getting out of bed, and making time for prayer, being kind when you feel frustrated, saying no to something that looks good but isn't from God. Those small steps may seem insignificant, but they are spiritually strategic. Why? Because obedience always opens doors. Every time you obey, even when it feels ordinary, you're aligning yourself with the supernatural work of God. Let's look at Ruth in the Bible. After her husband died, she didn't know what her future held. She was in a foreign land with no plan, but she did the next right thing. She went out to glean in the fields. It looked like just survival, but God was setting her up for destiny. That small step placed her in the path of Boaz, and eventually in the lineage of Jesus. You see, we often think the breakthrough moment comes with fireworks, but often it comes quietly, in your decision to stay faithful when it's not flashy. And here's the best part, you don't have to take the next step alone. Psalm 37:23 says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and He delights in His way." That means even when you feel like you're walking in circles, if your heart is surrendered, God is still ordering your steps. He's guiding even when you don't realize it. Let this free you today. You don't have to know where the path leads. Just walk with the one who does. You don't have to map out your destiny. Just trust the one who holds it. If you're stuck, here's your way out. Do the next right thing. It might be hard. It might be unseen. It might go uncelebrated by others, but it will be honored by God. And when you take that step, the next one will become clearer. And then the next. And before you know it, you'll look back and realize God led you through what you thought you couldn't survive. Keynote 6. Trust that God is working behind the scenes. One of the hardest things to do when you don't know what to do is wait. Because when you're waiting, it feels like nothing is happening. You're praying, you're seeking, you're trying to stay faithful and still. No answers, no open doors, no confirmation, just silence. But here's the truth that will anchor your heart. God is always working, even when you can't see it. Just because God is silent doesn't mean he's absent. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean he isn't moving. Isaiah 64:4 says, God works for those who wait for him. That means while you're in the waiting room, God is in the background arranging the details. He's preparing people. He's shifting circumstances. He's pruning your heart. He's setting things in place that you couldn't orchestrate even if you tried. Let's go back to the story of Joseph. For years, it looked like everything in his life was falling apart. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, thrown into prison, but behind the scenes, God was building a platform. Joseph couldn't see it, but God was using every delay to lead him to destiny. What looked like a setback was really a setup. And one day, in a moment Joseph never saw coming, God elevated him to a position of influence that saved nations. So let me tell you this: delay is not denial, silence is not abandonment, hidden seasons are not wasted seasons. God often does his best work in the dark. Like a seed planted underground, growth is happening even when it's invisible. Right now, in your confusion, in your uncertainty, in your tears, God is moving. He's aligning you with the right opportunities. He's healing things you didn't even know were broken. He's maturing your faith so that when the door opens, you'll be ready to walk through it. Romans 8:28 reminds us, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. Notice it says all things, not just the good days, but the messy, confusing, silent ones too. That means God is working through your heartbreak. God is working through your job loss. God is working through your silence, your stuck places, your waiting season. You may feel forgotten, but you're not. You may feel invisible, but heaven is watching. You may feel like your story has stalled, but the author is still writing. So if you don't know what to do next, here's what you do. Trust, not passively, not fearfully. Trust actively. Wake up every day and say, God, I don't see it yet, but I believe you're working behind the scenes. I will wait, worship, and walk by faith, because when it's God's time, nothing can stop it. And when you finally see what he's been preparing, you'll understand why he made you wait.